Hello everybody and welcome to this Monday Masterclass all about ethical marketing with Alice Karolina. I'm Simon Batchelor, one of the co-founders of Better, Bolder, Braver. I have been doing marketing for the best part of 20 years, running a digital marketing agency over here in the south coast of the UK. And yes, me and Francis created Better, Bolder, Braver earlier this year to help coaches attract better clients, make a bolder offer and be braver with their pricing, planning and purpose. So, Francis, do you want to introduce yourself?
I do want to introduce myself. I'm very proud about introducing myself. My name is Francis Khalasji, and I am a co-founder of Better, Bolder, Braver. I come with 20 years of marketing experience in different areas to Simon. I have worked in the city, in government, in the not-for-profit sector, charity sector. Hi, Rebecca! All in regards to communicating and presenting a business, a product, a self, an agenda. And together we are Better, Bolder, Braver, I think. I'm having lots of fun, and it's really nice to be showing up in that squiggly career fashion where, on retrospect, everything made perfect sense, even if at the time it felt a bit tangential, which is a nice way of describing things. But now we run this great organisation, which is a community and a way of supporting people to feel better, prouder, and more excited about what they do as coaches. So we're really very much underpinned by the concept of ethical marketing. And we're going to talk today about what the hell that actually means and not get too serious about it and have a bit of fun with it. And Alice I'm a bit starstruck because she's kind of a hero. And we're going to be talking to her all about the movement that she has founded, the Ethical Move. So without any further ado, Alice, won't you introduce yourself to us?
You sound so professional. Hi, I'm Alice. I founded the Ethical Move. It's going to be 4 years ago soon. And I have my own business, as we all do at the Ethical Move. We have our own businesses that run most of the show. And for that part, I help people find their voice. I come from a branding background, design background, communication background, studied linguistics there for a bit, also very tangential. And I am originally from Switzerland, so I envy your time zone right now. And my accent is entirely because I'm bilingual. I have no idea how I came to it. I am half Canadian. I live in Canada. I'm in Vancouver, BC at the moment. And yeah, I'm just so excited to be here. And it's so funny when people say starstruck. It just makes me feel like, well, but wait, what did I do?
It's so weird, the imposter syndrome.
Well, actually, it's more like, we're in this together. This is just the starting point. This is just the rally point. I don't actually, I started it and I'm proud of it. And I'm, there's no part of me that wants to say, oh no, we founded it together, because that's not true. I did it on my own. But now this is us, right? We're in this together. So it's kind of like my movement is your movement, please. Mm-hmm. Please. Anyway, I'm going to stop now.
But it's the mark of a good marketeer. I just made that up.
Nice.
When it's really hardly, it's so clear that is what the invitation is. I mean, you make it so easy, and I've talked about the ethical move to people in terms. In fact, Rebecca here and I were having dinner not too long ago, and I was talking about why the ethical move is so brilliant because of the stamp, and we'll talk about the movement away from the pledge and the intention, but the idea of people being able to feel that there's a stamp of them being part of a movement, which is hardly a difficult concept to get your head around, but is so powerful to be able to say, I stand behind the ethical move, not pledge anymore, but movement. So the mark of a good marketeer here is that you've made it clear that you are on a mission to get everyone behind this and it's not you, us and them, it's everyone. Yeah.
Well said.
Do you want to talk about what the pledge was and now and how it's evolved and what it is now?
Yeah, of course. I think when coming from agency life as well, you kind of get fed up with the boys club and the, I don't know, the power dominance, the weird way of tricking people. And then I came into the online world thinking that it'll be different here because we can, do whatever we want. So why would we be repeating the mistakes of the past? Of course we wouldn't. And then I, found out that it's even worse than on the ground because there is absolutely no regulation. There are no people saying, it's just, how can we make more money and how can my marketing make more money? My marketing course can then be about marketing and how, it's like this weird MLM. It just feels like a weird little scheme. And the formulas to teach the formulas were the formulas used to sell it. And then it just becomes this inverted little world that then nobody can really step out of, right? Because if you don't price your thing at $197 or pounds, then you're a bad marketer or you're a bad business owner, and all the formulas and all the courses so far have been created by people to create as much money as possible for themselves and to create, money in their sleep or whatever the thing was that they really thrived on, 5-10 years ago. 20, who knows? How long has the internet been alive? I don't know. But let's just say since I've been in business, which is only about 8 years, I've just seen this rampant, it started with nobody knowing anything and then becoming more and more and more insidious. And so for me, it just kind of kept going. I kept thinking, well, but when's somebody going to say something? Because this is terrible. This is exactly this is how we create this garbage world that we live in. How is nobody connecting these dots? Until I just finally snapped, I guess. I had one too many rants. And then I first decided to create what's called brands with integrity. I was very, somber about it, I think. And then really coming from a point of, okay, so I'm not interested in converting the consumer to be a better consumer because it's not on their end that the problem lies. But how can I get as many business owners as possible to come on board to doing things differently? And the one way I saw as a brander, as a marketer, is to create community, to create belonging, to create a way to say, hey, I have a stamp on my website that says, I will not trick you. And because I do that, you will see that and you will remember that when you go buy something on Amazon. Or you will remember that when you go out and come into a sales call and it's horrid and you feel like you've just been abused. You will remember that stamp because there's something there that was different about that website, that was different about that way of communicating. And so to me, that's where it started. I thought, okay, so how can I, because people are afraid of losing money, right? If you don't do charm pricing, then you're going to lose money. Or if you don't, make your webinar a sales pitch, you're going to lose money. So for me, it was a way of creating brand value, I guess, for yourself by having a stamp on your website. And that's how it started. And started with charm pricing. That was it. That was the only thing I could truly put my finger on. Knowing that I'd have to just talk about this more and more and more with everyone. And I called it a conversation from the beginning because I'm like, I don't know. I think this charm pricing thing is pretty clear, but all the other ways of, tricking people with secret recipes and shaming and all these little insidious ways, there's no hard and fast rule about what is manipulative and what isn't. So I felt like the more we talk about it, the more we'll be able to tease it apart and kind of see where that thin line is. And that's what I did. That's what we did eventually. I found that, my people like Karin, who then came on board to help me make more sense of it and bring their point of view to it. And, the more diverse we became, the more we saw that there's just so many levels to it that we, I just feel like every time we have one of our meetings, it just, I don't know, it blows my mind, and we have to kind of rethink everything. But that's the point. It's a conversation. And we've come away from this idea that it's just about marketing. It's really about, I know this is going to sound real cheesy, but this is what it is. It's about liberation in every sense of the word.
I really feel that. And we work with coaches, and for them, it's terribly uncomfortable, the whole selling their services, which is deeply ironic because they are the people helpers and we're motivated to help them. And the way that we do that is to make them feel really proud about being able to put out there with confidence and authenticity how they stand out in offering something and what their story is and how they can be the guide as opposed to the hero in the story. And we call marketing another, I can't swear because you're in Canada and also it's rude, but another effing self-growth tool, because we talk about how marketing is a sort of permission slip to hold a mirror up to yourself as well and ask yourself what's really going on. And when we have these feelings of discomfort around selling, the invitation that we like to give is also, why is that uncomfortable for you? And, what's going on for you inside from like a intergenerational trauma or psychobiographic perspective. And, where we come to as a community is that people are often having moments of epiphany because they're understanding what their real values are in thinking about how they're going to sell to other people, which I think is just a whole other level of why it's so beautiful to think about this stuff in the way that you've, invited us all to do so.
Well, thank you. I don't even know what to say to that. That's perfectly concluded.
Hardly. It's a good starting point.
We're done.
Yeah. Thank you for joining today's.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
I was going to say one thing.
What about the intention? What about the pledge and the intention? Weren't you going to tell us about the move from the pledge to the intention?
Yes. Well, we came to this point, I think it was in March, I don't know, in spring. We had a moment where Demetra actually said in a meeting when we were talking about creating the hashtag or like bringing the hashtag slow down the sale more to the forefront. And she said, well, I'm brown and I can't do that. This is a very privileged view. And I was like, oh, darn. And all of a sudden it felt like, I still don't have a better metaphor, but the matrix, when you're kind of seeing behind it and you're starting to understand that everything that you've been doing has been viewing it from like I assumed wrongly that people had to be protected and helped when all we really got to do is take the foot off the neck. So to me, there was a moment of, well, wait, what if we just listen? And what if we just work from within instead of working from without? That sounds really weird. The idea of another certification and another way of creating rules, I guess, for people. I originally thought we need rules. We need some sort of, not the hard and fast rules. I wasn't thinking of creating like a like policy or anything like that. I hadn't gone that far. I also don't think I'm interested in that part of it. But I thought with a certification, people could, get on board and think about the stuff. We could become part of B Corp. We actually had talked to someone at B Lab. We were going in that direction and then noticing how colonial a standard really is. Like even, the typical standards we know now, they're pass marks. They're not actually like it's like a cool thing to do, but there's no real, I don't know, the impetus seems to have been lost. And a lot about those certifications is also not okay. Like they're not actually doing the thing that they're saying they're doing. I don't know if you saw all these recent documentaries on like Oceanwise and all these other, certifications that can't be measured. And then we came to this point with Maria, who's our team academic, who's doing all the things, meaning a master's plus a business plus writing several papers, that kind of person that you're just, anyways, in her research around whether or not we can create a standard, they came to this point of, no, we actually can't, because the impact of our specific, tactics and whether or not they are actually going to like we weren't able to measure the impact is basically what we're saying. Not successfully, because there's too many different variations. Like culturally, we're all different. There's different global structures. There's different economic structures. Like it just wouldn't be able to be teased out. It's not like we give this opportunity to coffee farmers, and then this happens, and then this happens, and then here's the impact. So really, we came to a point of, well, if we can't create a new set of rules, because we really shouldn't, especially not me as a white lady. And then we also can't really measure what we're doing. Not really, not the ICL spreadsheet kind of measuring that you need for a standard. Then let's just forget about it. Let's just drop the whole thing. Let's just get rid of the idea of following tactics and saying you can't use countdown timers because of this. And if you do, here's all the rules you need to follow in order to do that. But say, hey, you're going to promise to put the person before the sale. If you use countdown timers, you better do it with that intention. So if you say, I'm putting the person before the sale, then don't make your countdown timer so flashy and neon that it hurts people or, creates epileptic seizures or, but at the same time, if you put a person before the sale, you can put a countdown timer in for people in various time zones so they can better, find their spot. You can put it there for people who have, are neurodiverse and can't focus well and need the countdown timer to be able to complete the sale. So all of a sudden, all of our rules were able to be looked at from all different vantage points. And now we've just decided, okay, so what if we started from the intention, which was part of our principles anyways. We had these commitments that we had already connected with the pledge, with the tactics themselves. And I know I'm just assuming that people know the evolution of what happened. We had 7 individual tactics that people had to pledge to not to use anymore or to use differently. And for example, countdown timers was one of them. And now we have changed it to put the person before the sale, take responsibility, communicate clearly, inclusively, truthfully, and take accountability. So in the sense of, tell me if I'm doing it wrong, and I will be willing to have a conversation about why and how, and I will change. And I will continuously review that forever. So we've made it harder and also simpler, I think. But now we want to give the tactics as a resource, right? We've studied all these tactics. There's so many of them. There's hundreds of them. And now we can actually just give them as a resource and show what we would do with the tactics instead. Like, instead of charm prices, use round numbers. But also round numbers can be manipulative in certain instances. So understanding where you are on the scale as opposed to, okay, black and white, this is where I'm going, this is where I'm not. Yes. So that's what we've done in the last couple of months. We came live with our new, what we internally called an intention pledge. So this is just the pledge to the movement now, is these basically 4 things. And yeah, I got work to do now because I got stuff that's not figured out yet. I'm like, I don't use countdown timers because I just don't have a sales page like that. But now I have to go back and look at, I said that I was going to be, that I will respect your privacy. So let me just go double check my privacy policy. There's so many things now that even I have to, kind of step up now. Yeah. Anyway, I hope that makes sense.
I find it really amazingly exciting because in a way it gives me permission to act out the things that I sometimes felt, I guess, in previous lives, that I was being a bit of a whistleblower in showing up to do. And I found myself in corporate environments or with men or whatever the combination of slightly annoying looked like at the time, where I felt like I couldn't really sort of ask questions or check in and just make sure that, or try and be inclusive, or I felt like I was being swept along by the emperor's new clothes. So I love it because it gives us permission as kind of activist types to be like, wait, hang on a minute. And also I like throwing a cat amongst pigeons and asking people what they think about what it is I'm saying. And sometimes it really puts the bejesus in people, but then you have a much more honest, truthful, meaningful conversation that results in a sale that actually everyone benefits from. And I love, we've had our own live scenario quite recently. We had 50, we wanted to give 50 people the opportunity to be founding members of our community. And I called Simon at one point. I was like, can we just, like, what are we doing? Like, is this for us that we're saying if you want to benefit from the Founding 50 rate, you have to do it, otherwise you're going to have a different rate? And we keep reminding ourselves about it. It's like, well, no, because the point of all of this is that if we don't build this and iterate based on people's feedback, i.e. people who are in there who we're asking how they feel about it, then we're not going to build something of value for them, and it's not going to be of value to us. And like, if we don't tell people when our course starts because we're scared of countdown timering them, whatever you want to say, then we may not get enough people that the course will be meaningful to run with to join the course, and then we won't be able to run it. And if we don't run it, we don't have a business because we can't afford to survive, and then we'll have to go and do something we don't really want to do. And it's like, so how can you ask the questions in a way that is going to serve you, because you're actually able to get to the truth of why you're doing something in a way that you might not have been able to do before. So I love it. I find it very liberating as opposed to sort of onerous. But I hear what you're saying about the colonial stuff. It sounds like what you're saying is show up in a way that's possible for you and be clear about what your intention is, so that the people that might buy your service understand where you're coming from, but also that you're human, you know?
Absolutely. And I think you've hit it on the head. Oh, that's so violent. You said the exact thing that I think is important to note here. I'm trying not to use militant and violent language, and it's actually really hard.
But the phrase is about a nail, if this helps you. So
I know,
be pedantic,
but
it's
you
just
hit
like
the nail
hammering
on
a
the
nail.
head. I know. Yeah.
So it's not like...
I know. Okay, yes, fine. Okay, this one will slide. I guess we talked about it. Yes. But then I just think, never mind.
Inanimate, you mean love for inanimate objects of people on spectrum? I wasn't going to mention it, but yeah, if you have a sensitivity to inanimate objects, this is not going to work for you.
No, I go to more gruesome places. No.
Okay.
No. I have a very visual brain.
Okay, in which case we are retracting that statement.
Yes, thank you very much. Okay, so you know how I said let's not take this too seriously. I think there's two things to remember. One, we have businesses to run, like you said. I'm not asking anyone to stop marketing. On the contrary, there's no part of me that wants to stop, the marketplace of being what it is. I mean, no, let me rephrase that. I want it very much to change, but I don't want to eradicate it. I don't want to eliminate it, because we all have brilliant ideas and people who need them. So please, go forth, market, but also understand that you are part of a market. If your product doesn't make sense, if it's not selling without you slapping all kinds of trickery on it, then you got to rethink your product. That's all. So take responsibility for the product that you make or the service or whatever, slot in whatever thing you sell. That's one thing. And the other thing is that I learned from a peer called Brittany Berger. I don't know if you've heard of her or seen her. She does a lot of work around neurodiversity. I'm going to butcher exactly what she does, so I'm not going to keep talking about it, but look her up. Where we were in a writing cohort together, and there was this moment where we realized that the two white males that ran it had not thought about accessibility one lick, and asked us to post pictures on Twitter of our writing instead of, text, which is just not, it's 2021. Let's not do that anymore. So we had a bit of a fit in the Slack group and asked for, more accessible ways of doing it. And then we came to this point where we said, okay, I guess we have to take it in our own hands. We found out that the platform where we originally publish it is readable with screen readers. I also decided to put every one of the essays on my website for screen readers. And there were some people who actually created threads underneath the post, like Twitter threads. And there came a point for me where I thought, okay, so I'm going to have 3 different places people can access this if they can't see. But it was 3 hours of work every time for 300 words, which were supposed to be out in half an hour. And I didn't have the bandwidth for it. And one thing she said was, my disability doesn't allow for I have to take my disability first. My brain can't handle that amount of additional work. So I'm not going to do the threading. I'm just going to put it in one place and people can go find it there. And it was such a big moment for me where I said, oh, I also have a brain that doesn't do well with, like, I have to go lie down if I work for 3 hours like that. So in order for me to keep running my business, I need to just do one thing in order to make sure that it is accessible, but I don't have to do the Twitter thread as well. I don't have to do the additional 15 layers because my ADHD is like, I'm bumping up against stuff here. So being allowed to be yourself as well and say, hey, this is how far I can go. I have OCD, I can't do this. Or I have, I am a highly sensitive person. This is not a thing that I'm going to participate in. Or I'm actually always going to keep my video off. I don't care what people think. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, just understand and honoring your own intersections as well and getting to know them when you're doing things. It's okay. If you're working and trying to be inclusive, check everything. Be inclusive, but also take care of yourself. If you don't take care of yourself, the whole thing is not going to matter because you won't be able to withstand the sale, I guess, So,
and if you burn out, if we burn out, then there's going to be too many other people who don't give a shit, and they're going to survive and they're going to win. So if we don't look after ourselves and each other, in the good old words of Jerry Springer, I don't know on what end of the ethical marketing spectrum he might come, but anyway,
not too high.
Probably not. Let's not judge. We don't know what's going on inside.
All on the spectrum.
But the thing is, I think I'm a big fan. I mean,
doorbell, Simon.
Classic. Me and Ben, who's my business partner for the agency, we have got through 20 years of business by not being afraid to tell the client what they don't want to hear in the meeting. So if a client walks in and they're like, oh, we want to sell this and it's a bit shit, and to be honest it falls apart after 3 months, so what can you do about the returns policy? We just go like, well, thanks for coming, goodbye, for a start. But not saying we've had many people like that, but we do get people say, oh, those little the little things that pop up saying, Sally in Brooklyn's just purchased, it's called High Pressure. It's a plugin you can get from WordPress. I'll put a link in the show notes for anybody who's interested. It's like, it's the most bullshit plugin, but people do ask us about those tactics and they say, hey, can we do this? And hey, can we do that? And quite often we'll just say, do you know what? If your product is shit, it's that shit that you need a high pressure close plugin. Like you were saying, you need to go back and look at your product. And the one thing we get laughed at, I guess, in the sort of peer community for agencies, and that's because I generally think that most sort of ads sales that Facebook and Google are doing are just crap. It's not going to work because people are sending like traffic to a product that they don't want. So you're selling a product, and then you're just driving more people who don't want it at that product. And it's like, and that's all the ads are doing. And it's like, it's that silver bullet thing, isn't it? And people often look to marketing to be that silver bullet, to be like, hey, I've got this product, it's not really selling very well, I'm just going to throw some ads traffic at it. And it's like, it's going to make it worse. It's like, you really need to refocus and come back and take responsibility for the fact that maybe the product or the way you're talking about it or the phrasing you're using, or maybe the fact that it's covered in countdown timers and high pressure close plugins is driving people off the site. So sometimes it's, clients come to us with websites that are just, they look awful or they don't work on mobile, and then they're like, well, I'm not selling any products. And you're like, yeah, but that's because 80% of your traffic is on mobile and it looks like that. And we're the first people who've ever held a phone up with their website on. They're like, well, I never use my website on my phone. You're like, but just because you don't doesn't mean your customers aren't. So a lot of that marketing chat and a lot of that marketing bullshit that's out there is just noise. And that's when Francis introduced me to your Ethical Move website for the first time. I was like, oh, someone gets it. Like, this is it. Like, we've been shouting about this for ages, but as soon as we could articulate what we were doing and why we were doing it so clearly, it just suddenly made sense. And it was an absolute no-brainer for us to just jump in and get involved, because it just was like, yes, this is what we're all about. And articulating it in the way you used to articulate it was great, but I completely understand and have enjoyed that growth and elaboration of it. And then your what you were saying about the accessibility of it is just fascinating, because it's that next level thinking that I think a lot of people aren't ready or haven't maybe thought about too much, but this is just getting them to take that, ethical standpoint and then take it one step further. So it's been a really interesting to hear you articulate that. It was really fascinating.
And the transparency with which you talk about it is such a gift as well. I mean, I wanted to get you and Simon to geek out on what Simon calls magic beans, which maybe I'll let you talk about, Simon, because when you talked about it earlier, Simon was like, and I know Simon very well, and inside Simon was going, oh my God, yes, the magic beans. So maybe
what are the magic beans?
What are the magic beans, Simon?
Okay, so magic beans are so basically I come to you and for $997 I will sell you my magic beans. Now, when I planted the magic beans, they grew an amazing beanstalk and took me to a magical kingdom. Do you want to swap all of your worldly possessions for these magic beans? Now, most people will be like, of course I do, because I can see your beanstalk. It's amazing. And you're literally just trusting these beans that have nothing in them. They're just hope. And then when you unpack the magic beans and you plant them, they don't always do what you wanted to do, because sometimes the ground isn't right, the water isn't right, the soil isn't right, and you don't get the beanstalk. So quite often what we see with especially online courses is you're just buying that secret sauce, the magic beans. It's a sack of, I mean, I'm not saying that everything in the course is not going to work for you, but it's a big risk, because you're just buying a sort of, well, this worked for me, so it'll work for you. It's like, well, will it? Is that definitely going to work? You've got no guarantee, but also a lot of these people who do well with selling online courses, A, had existing enormous audiences, B, had existing huge business customer lists, left a corporate client with thousands of leads, snucked away in the back, and then were able to, I sent one email and earned $100,000. It's like, well, yeah, if you've got 10,000 clients and each of them's looking for what you're selling, it's, of course. And that's the magic beans thing. It's like, look at my success. Trust me, I've got magic beans.
What Simon points out always is, even when I get, the other day I got a bit enticed. I sent Simon a website of someone who looked like they were an ethical marketing person. I was just ignoring the countdowns and the pop-ups and stuff, and I was reading what they were saying about sort of helping people to do things like market without social media and all sorts of other things that felt like there was something good in there. And then Simon pointed out to me that there was a course that didn't actually tell you anything about the course, like what was in the course, but was just kept pointing you back to how well the person who designed the course had done in their life. So all you were buying was more and more stories about how well they'd done. And it's like, well, how is that subjectively helpful to me? Like, what bit of that journey are you going to look at what I'm all about and help me? And so it's really fascinating, isn't it? You can get so easily sucked into
Oh my gosh. Stuff. I know. I think, oh my gosh, there's so many things to unpack here. I love the magic beans. I think I want to call secret recipe magic beans now, because that's the thing, right? It's like,
you heard it first here.
Exactly.
I will put them back to you.
We probably appropriated that. No, we haven't. This is a Simon original, I promise.
I love it. So number one, well, there's so many things, but just to the magic beans, one thing that you pointed out, the fact that, people it works for have, potentially a really big audience, or they have, the fertile ground that you need. I just want to say this: formulas benefit the formula creator more than the buyer. If you have a formula and you sell it, you're going to get more out of it than the person buying the formula. It's just like, I feel like I've seen it 100 million times. It like, if you already have 20,000 Twitter followers, your thing on Twitter is going to do better than me just starting out. It's just like pretty basic. But there's this idea, like the magic beans, this idea that, well, but she started somewhere, they started somewhere, I can start somewhere too. And I absolutely 100% agree with that. It's just that the formulas are not there to help you with that. They're there to help them. Now, that's a sentence that my native German mouth had a hard time saying.
Yeah, to help you.
So, oh gosh, whatever. So that's one side of it where I'd really like people to sort of check themselves when they find a formula or they find a template, because most likely you're not going to fit in that template, or your situation is unique. The other thing is, look to your audience, listen to them first. Like, whatever anybody else says, you know your people best, or you should. And if you don't, go find out about them and go ask them. Not, if you want to invest in something, invest in a survey, invest time in getting to know them instead of another course. And then the other thing that I like to say, the gap, call the gap, I guess, is that we often misidentify gaps. We think we have a gap in this direction, but actually it's this. So I had this moment when I was trying to become the most accessible business owner of all time. And I thought I could do this in February. I'm not joking. February was my accessibility month. And then I got super frantic, and I reached out to my community and said, okay, so I need to find someone who can help me like make a list, and like, where do I prioritize and how do I go first? And there's so many things to consider, because on a first Google search, I could see like, oh, here's all the ways in which, and I'm talking technical accessibility, not actually like understanding the concept of, what ableism is or what, none of that. No, I just wanted my website to be fine so I could say I'm accessible. Yeah, I did this year. And I finally found someone. I got on a call with them. They wanted to charge me, I don't know, $1,500 for an audit for basically just looking at my website, which is fair. But they were two white people looking, like, appearing able-bodied. When I asked them about their, the reason why they're doing this, where I thought maybe there's like some background in, something that makes them sort of qualified for this. And it was just like general interest, which is fine, which is totally fine. But not the sort of thing that I felt like I really wanted to give my money to somebody who's actually in that world because they will know best. And then I sat down because I'm like, okay, $1,500, do I have it? And then I thought, okay, so what am I paying for here? I'm paying for a priority list, or I'm paying for someone to look at my website. I can look at my website and see where the problems are with like checklists on the internet. I think I'm okay with that. What the heck is driving me right now? Like, why am I so frantic? And then I realized, oh, it's because I want to do it in February. Like, what the heck? So I decided to drop the entire timeline and just say 2021 is my accessibility year. In the entire liberation work, this is what I'm going to focus on this year. And it's been a freaking learning curve. And one small tiny bit was, changing my website. That was small, super tiny in comparison. But I almost bought $1,500 worth of something that wasn't going to help me at all. Like, it probably would have, pointed some stuff out that, was good to know. But then when they already sent me a couple of screenshots of what I could do different, and I sent them to Maria, our, resident, yes, also accessibility expert. She's incredible. And they were like, actually, it's fine. It's not that bad. Or like, you could do this, or maybe do this. And I'm like, oh, never mind. Okay, so that's what I mean with misunderstanding the gap. So oftentimes when we get frantic and we feel like we don't have enough, we're not going to be enough, we can't pay for the colleges of our children, we can't, but whatever the thing is that you're freaking out about, if something is there to plug that hole, just really, really check yourself, because that might just be a panic buy there to be sort of just to cover it up, but not actually to solve anything. So that fear is what we at the Ethical Move are trying to eliminate, or at least, the pinpoint to say like, hey, you're actually being tricked into thinking that this is what you need, by, bypassing this thing in your brain that makes you make good decisions. So the reason why we wanted to slow down the sale was to be able to create that, distance between the sale and you. But then at the same time, maybe that's not actually the only hard and fast rule. Maybe there's other ways. Maybe there's other ways of doing this without slowing down the sale. Anyways, now I've got enough.
No, I love it. And, what's coming up for me, and it's a bit triggering, is something that's, I think, going on quite a lot, which is also people not being able to slow down the sale from the perspective of the seller. And I feel like we've all been guilty of panic selling.
Yeah.
And someone puts you on the spot in a sales. I resonate with what you were saying before about feeling abused as being someone put on the spot when trying to sell your services. And I think that's an important part of those conversations, that we have to say, hang on a minute, is what they're doing, does that smell of like not great things to come for me in this relationship? You know, we talk about with coaches, this is not just about you standing on a soapbox vomiting your shit at everyone for the sake of selling coaching to whoever passes by that will buy it. You've got to be intentional so that the people you're surrounding yourself with and the energy that you're surrounding yourself is going to be nourishing for you for the long run. And we're all guilty because we want to put bums on seats or, you know, get people on the course or whatever, of going, oh my God, we've got to make this work. We've got to give them what they need. If you can, and it makes sense for you, wonderful. If you've got the answers there, fabulous. If it makes sense for everyone else involved, all the better and marvellous. But if they're asking of you something that you can't quite get your head around being able to accommodate comfortably now, it's the strength, and this is the triggering bit, is the confidence and the strength that has to come from being able to say no, or I'm not quite at that stage yet, but thank you for this useful question. I hear where you're coming from. I can't answer you truthfully, and I'm not going to because I don't want to do that. Thank you. And I think that's really important for me as well, as a seller, as a marketeer, and, you know, representing the coaching community. I don't want people to do it.
I know. So I have a secret recipe for that.
Please share it right now.
It's going to take you 300 days. Sorry.
Oh, I see. I'm so slow.
I'm not joking.
I'm such a schmuck. Took me a second there. I was like all ready to give you some money.
Frances was there for 997. She was in.
Thing. Damn it! I missed my chance.
No, this
to
is
sell
the thing.
Something I haven't even created yet. No, I actually have a thing that you can use here. I actually have a secret recipe.
Go on, please. No, please do.
So what I did when I sort of like came back to my business, I had a bit of a burnout, went back to a job, whatever. Came back. It sounds like it was just like that. It took a little longer, but I realized I had to sort of step out of my comfort zone and be more visible, whatever the thing is. I decided that, well, I also knew my boundaries weren't very great and I didn't know how to handle them. And so I actually created this thing. I know you're going to laugh at this so hard, and I'm such a nerd, called my 300-day challenge. Because it was, you know, when the time came when there was like 10-day challenge and 30-day challenge. And I'm like, nice. 30 days is not going to give me anything, right? So I'm going to make my own 300-day challenge. And these 300 days, I'm going to build my business back up. And what are all the things I can do? What are all the habits that I can do every day to build my business? And I'm in my 5th run, I think now, of 300 days. And it's been bananas amazing. Anyways, what I did the first 300 days was I said no every day for 300 days.
I love that.
It was so hard.
And
it was like the smallest thing, from like, no, I don't want cream in my coffee. I don't drink coffee anymore.
Yeah.
I don't drink coffee anymore. No, thank you. To like, no, I'm not going to buy this thing because it makes me uncomfortable, or no, I would like you not to touch me. Thank you very much. Or, you know, like any of those uncomfortable, like anything on the discomfort spectrum. And the only thing I can think of is if you're really struggling with like that moment of discomfort of being able to like stand up for yourself or have that confidence, I don't know what that's called. Just practicing with very, very small things for a very long time. And now I'm just like, if I'm in a place where I have that moment where I'm like, oh, I really don't like this. I'm just like, I really don't like this. What you're doing right now is actually doesn't feel right. And because I've said no so many times, now I know exactly how to have that uncomfortable conversation. I'm also super cool with hanging up on people. I've hung up on so many people. Obviously not my friends. You know, I'm a little more refined than that. But there's just been moments where I'm on a sales call and I'm like, sorry, gotta go. And then just no hard feelings.
No, I hear you completely. It's taken me, like, I'm in my 40s and it's taken me this long to understand what being a whistleblower means to me. And, you know, I've been in situations where I've done stuff and then I've been out on the proverbial street and going, why the fuck did I do that? And it's taken me until now to be like, because I'm an activist type, because I don't suffer fools gladly, because I, which I said to Simon is a stupid thing to say, because, but I find it very difficult, whatever that means about whatever spectrum I might be on. I find it very difficult, and I have to stand up for something. And I really battled with that for a very long time. So I actually maybe had the opposite of you in that it wasn't something I actually need to practice. It was more that I felt I was needing to contain something about myself. And now it's about sort of, it was never done without being polite. It was always absolutely framed in an appropriate way, but I battled with like the idea of saying no, I think, or I don't agree with this. And so for me the work is about not only being able to do that with pride, but also to try to work out what about it I'm not comfortable with, so that I can iterate, and so that I can help other people in some sort of education around how they might like to build a thing as well. And that is a piece of creativity that I'm really like reveling in later life.
I love that.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I'm going to take a page out of that book. That's awesome.
I wanted to share something I heard, which is sort of building on a little bit of those two elements and combining it with an element of fun, which was the Fail Olympics. I don't know if you remember this from a few years ago, but this person set out to fail 100 times. And the idea was that when you're in the business of selling yourself or putting yourself out there, one of the reasons that people don't do it is because they're afraid of people saying no or rejecting them. So what you do is you build it into a fun way, and you essentially look for a fun way to get a no every day. So essentially, if you're going to a coffee shop and you ask for a coffee, hey, can I have a flat white with oat milk, please? Oh, and is there any chance I could get like a 50% discount on that? And they're of course going to go, well, no, and you'll be like, oh, okay, fine, okay, and you just get used to people going, no, what are you talking about? And then it means when actually someone says no, you're just like, oh, fine, yeah, okay, it just brushes off your shoulders.
I know. Yeah.
But what you do is, if you want to do like this guy did, he filmed all 100. And by the end of it, he had millions of followers on YouTube, and
of course he did.
He asked for like, can I get a donut? He'd go into Krispy Kreme and say, can I get like a pretzel-shaped donut, but with like a pig face shape on the pretzel? And they were like, no. And then it would like someone would be like, hey, this guy just asked for this weird thing, and they'd be like, no, we can do that actually. I can just do this and this and this. And then it would like come out, we did it, and he's like,
love it.
I got the no. It's like, yeah, and it just turned into this, like, without him being a celebrity or anything, but just the way he started to ask for them actually became a way of encouraging people to sort of think about it and be like, yeah, actually maybe I can. So yeah, it was a fun thing.
That's nice.
I love that. I think it translates well to also just asking for things and being okay with what happens.
Yeah.
I think that's a general. Oftentimes, it's actually funny. I do this sometimes. Where I'm like, "Do you have a sale going right now? Like, is there something you can do about this? Right?" And
my father-in-law also, like, basically, I've told Simon this before, but whenever he orders like a takeaway, he'll always say, "Is there anything for free?" And I'll be like, "Okay, go on then. We'll just chuck in some onion bhajis, whatever." It's like, well, what's the harm in asking? Do you know what I mean?
I know. And it's funny because then asking doesn't become so frightening anymore. And then when you have a moment of, hey, leader that I love to follow on Instagram, your posts are not inclusive enough. Would you mind taking a look at that? Or, and then that ask can become very simple and very flat. You're not adding any layers of like, oh, I'm so sorry, and may I please? But like, hey,
unemotional. Like Craig here pulled us up the other day. Craig's our community member of the week for this reason. Craig said, he wrote me an email going, you're not including the time zones, so I don't. Craig's in, where are you, Craig? Not Florida, you're in Oregon. Somewhere exotic. Oregon.
Exotic.
Yeah, it's pretty exotic to us.
I've been to Oregon. It's
and Craig's like, you're not telling me what time. It is exotic, I'm telling you.
I know, Craig. I'm in the Pacific Northwest as well.
Yeah, no, but like, I was like, hang on, you're right. I mean, we're just being so like this. Well, for me, so there was a wrong assumption that people would be able to look at our website and figure out that we're in the UK, which is just like, nah. But also, thank you for thinking that people on the other side of the planet might be interested in what we're talking about, because there's obviously some imposter syndrome going on for me and maybe Simon, which is that we've got a very small pool. And as it turns out, we have members in Oregon and Bali and in Europe of all, like lots of different countries, Spain and actually, so it's not just for other people. It's to help you think about your own. I don't know. I just feel like all of these things are two sides of a beautiful coin. It's not all about It's not. I hear what you're saying about, thinking with your customer first and in mind, but for me that's also so that it can serve you back, you know what I mean, like putting people first. If you go into a party, you're going to have a better conversation if you go in and ask someone how they are and look them in the eye and really mean it and then be interested in what they say, as opposed to just standing there gassing at them hoping that they're interested, Now
we've all been there. Just having someone come and foghorn at you. I think one last thing I wanted to share was something a very wise business coach told me years ago, and they said that one of the best ways to sort of work a sale, if you see what I mean, to make that process work, is to essentially just give the client all of the tools they need to sell it to themselves, and then simply make an invitation at the end, which is, so is this the kind of thing that would help you get where you want to get to? And essentially that's it. That's the sale, is just ask for the sale at the end. And if they say no, you're like, okay, great. So now what's your plan? If this isn't for you, what's the plan? And it does two things. One, it gets them to articulate what is their plan. And they may say, oh, I'm going to buy this other thing, which is great because then you know. Or they're like, oh, well, I don't really understand how this thing is going to do this for me, so I don't think it's right. And you're like, oh, cool. So what they're asking for is more information. And it just opens that conversation up. But I think what we're all about with marketing is just enabling the client to fully understand what they're about to purchase before they make the purchase. So when you come to say, hey, do you want to buy this thing? They're like, oh yeah, that's that thing I've been looking at for like 6 weeks and I've been thinking of buying that. I'll totally buy it. Rather than like, I don't know, I've only got 7 minutes and 33 seconds to join this live webinar. I'm feeling a bit like, Susie and Bolton's just bought it. I better jump on this. It just feels, I think as soon as you reframe what you're trying to enable or empower the client to do, then all of these other sales tactics just seem like a really stupid idea.
I know, that's what I keep thinking.
Yeah.
It's so dumb. It makes people feel like garbage. It completely ruins the relationship for years to come. They're never going to come back to you. Yeah. They're never going to suggest anyone come to you. What's the point?
Well, yeah, because if they don't enjoy the sales
process, quick sale.
They're going to hate it. Yeah.
Oh, I know. And I mean, this is, you've nailed it there. Let's see what I did.
Hardware. Sorry.
This is what we've learned from Maria's research. Let me just say again, Maria is the one that researched this. And she's writing a paper right now on this. Is that really what we're looking at is, if you're thinking about ethical marketing and what that really is, all it is creating conscious choice for your person if you want to make marketing ethical. So that means being conscious, being aware, having all the information, and being able to consent. Like actively consent. Or not, right? So if you have those two elements, you're in the clear. I know that sounds really like terrifying because it means, I actually have to go step out and make something really, really, really transparent. And then I'm going to have to make it their choice. I'm not going to be able to sort of like pad it or make it pretty or anything. Well, you can, of course, make it pretty. I wouldn't be a good designer if I didn't think that. But it's not, it's kind of wearing your heart on your sleeve, right? You're basically being vulnerable with like everything. Here's everything I have. And then do you want it? And that's it. But
that feels like, that comes back to me to to that thing of like, you have to create safe boundaries and frameworks for yourself. And I'm thinking about your previous conversation with regards to an intention as opposed to a pledge, and colonialism and the inclusivity of people for whom languishing in not doing stuff for a long time because it doesn't feel 100% perfectly ethical is very, very triggering and difficult.
Yeah.
And it's that thing of like, yes, give people as much information as is possible for you within the framework of what you can possibly give.
Precisely.
And if you're asked of much more, all you can say is, I can give you this, I'm giving it to you honestly, and where are we going to go from here? Because it's like people say to us, are we going to get a marketing plan? Where are we going to be in a year? So, well, not many people say this, by the way, and when they do say it, it's a bit of an alarm bell. But it's like, we don't want to give you we'll give you the idea of a marketing plan from which you can deviate, and what we want is to give you the confidence and energy with which you can be creative, as with your marketing plan as a springboard for fun. You know what I mean? Like, otherwise people will just, you've got to be able to give yourself creativity and license and permission and freedom where, you're just a human. We can only do our best, even within
Absolutely.
this movement.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think that's where we like to go with the ethical move is, be straight up with what you're doing, but also take care of yourself and look to your people. It's pretty simple, really. It's just been, I think it's just the layers and layers and layers of garbage that we need to just get out of the way. It's not actually that hard. It's not actually, ethical marketing is this like super unicorn that nobody knows how to do. It's like, no, you actually know. It's just that we've been trained differently. We've been conditioned to put ourselves into the tiniest boxes. We've been conditioned to not think of ourselves as valid. We've been conditioned to need things that we don't actually need. That's all just like layers and layers. That's not us, actually. So stripping that is what's going to help. It's not like this new invention that suddenly is going to come out of the woodwork. This is ethical marketing. And if there is anything, it is that conscious choice, and also understanding that it is how you do it, not the thing you do. The thing you do is the thing you do, but the process, the way that you treat your people, the entirety, like this is why the ethical move is so much based on liberation. Actually, it's not even about marketing anymore. I didn't say that. It is about like, how can we communicate so that we can liberate everything? And I mean that from like decolonization, although that term, we need to look at that term again. I mean that from like neurodiversity. I mean that for any and all aspects of the spectrum, being able to communicate in a way so that people can be free of whatever this oppressive system is. And it is just oppressive. Like this like weird norm, or this place where people think they have to get to, was just created to sell. It wasn't actually, it's not actually a thing that exists. We're all pretty unique humans. There's only one of us, all of us. And so there's no way we're all going to fit into some sort of BMI or, it just makes no, like if you think about it, it makes no sense.
Exactly.
It's just there to sell. That's all. And if you can't fit the norm, then something's wrong with you, and then you must buy things. Oh, I'm so bored with it. It's so boring.
I love this. I love that we've rounded off on this is not just marketing. That's kind of the headline for me. And, it isn't. And even if you try and rein it in, it just isn't, because it just opens up the Pandora's box in a really lovely way, doesn't it?
I think it's good, because it is that element of, so you start looking at it from this angle, but it's by looking at this, you're also going to be looking at this and this and this, and it as you say, as Francis uses that phrase a lot, is that mirror, isn't it, of holding the mirror up and saying, oh, actually now I've looked, I can see all these things that I want to look and reflect on, and then you can go through and work all of those. So I think it's a very powerful starting point, and one that I think it has so many benefits to both you and the client that it feels like a natural place to start with your business. And I think it's powerful stuff. And
I think one of the most important things about this comes back to, sorry, I just like ran over you. Yes, excellent point. And
He's used to it.
Is he?
No, they.
That's tough. They
used to it. I'm afraid
they're used to it.
I'm afraid to say.
I don't know if I want to continue that. Then just because they're used to it doesn't mean that we have to continue. I apologize for just running over you.
It's okay. Yeah.
I wanted to add this point to your excellent point, which is you start with the pledge. You start with the commitment. You start with the intention, and then you work on it. And you don't do what I do and try and do it in February. It's not going to work. Do it in February. That's going to be my favorite next pop-up offer. Do it in February. Sorry. I can't stop. It just, you make me laugh.
We're going to have to, because we're at time.
No, I know. But I think it's so important to remember that this doesn't have to be a 1 month thing. You start somewhere, you make the pledge, you put the badge on your website, and then you start working and you start communicating and you start figuring stuff out. It's not the other way around. You don't have to be perfect and then, and then get the badge or something like that. So
yeah, it's just for now. We talk about niching for now. It really helps people get off the ledge of freak out when they realize they have to niche. Yeah. It's like, just niche for now. It's not forever.
Everything is a damn evolution. I'm sorry. Yeah. Nothing is permanent. Nothing. You're going to rebrand 15 times before you're done. Like, it's fine. It's completely okay. Your logo is going to change.
Okay I feel like we're going to have many more ranting opportunities with you. Hopefully this will just be the first of many. It's been an absolute mind-blowing joy. You're an absolute legend. We love you very much. Thank you for everything.
Thank you.
And let us know if we can help you in any way, and we're here doing the thing, trying our best.
You're already doing it. And come join our community when we got it next year.
Yeah, for
That's
sure.
what I want. So we can all talk about this all the time.
Hey. So I've just put in a link to your website, which will also go into the show notes. If you're listening to the podcast version or if you're watching on YouTube, this will be in the description or the show notes for you to find out more about the ethical move. Alice, if people have a question for you, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you? What's your preferred way for people to reach out to you if they feel so inclined?
Well, specifically for the ethical move, our hello@email address is well staffed. So that's one way to get in touch with me, or DM us on Instagram. We try and share all those tasks, but it will get back to me. And then with my own business, same thing. AliceKarolina.com is my website. There, it's just me. So you'll get me there too, and the email address is on my website. So email, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Because social media is not really a place.
You've done a poor job of selling your business. Can you? What's your elevator pitch? Your one sentence
elevator pitch
about what that business is. I help people find their voice.
No, find their voice. It's all about finding your voice. So the moment that you're trying to be the person that starts a movement. I help people put their stake in the ground and find their messaging around it.
How to be like me, buy my magic bean.
It worked so well for me.
It worked for me. Yeah, exactly. Amazing. You're a legend. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll see you around.
Yes.
It's been fun.
100%.
Excellent. Thank you for joining us.
Take it easy. Thanks, guys, for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Thanks very much. We'll see you at another conversation soon. Bye.